Hey, it's the Reckless Retiree here, and it's a beautiful, cool morning, the end of August. And I want to share an idea I have with you. I'm not sure the quickest way to get there. I think through here, by the chair. Remember, the secret way is by the chair. Anyway, I have this idea that I want to follow through on. It's not top priority at this point, but I just wanted to explore it a little bit. I've always wanted to have an underground lair, if you will. I'm not sure what I'm going to use it for. One place would be, one way use for it would be to, like a root cellar. Another possible use would be, if it hits the fan, if and when it hits the fan, and I need a place to escape, from, I don't know, tornado. Chances of that here in lower Michigan are pretty slim. But, or, the Chinese attack. I don't know, something. Anyway, I've just always wanted an underground lair. So I thought, well, actually, I just tried to dig one once, and it was a lot of work. I didn't get very far. So my thinking was, it'd be good if it went into a hill. See, this is a kind of an incline here by my house in the woods, and here's this incline. So if I dug into the incline, the further I went, the deeper it would go. But then I thought, well, make it a little easier. Why don't I use an abandoned animal? Let's see, what do they call these things? Animal home. It's already partially dug, right? You ever drill a hole in metal? You want to pre-drill it with a tiny, small hole drill that makes the bigger drill so much easier to do. Okay, so here's this hole. And what I want to do right now, I have a piece of conduit, as you can see. I want to see how far I can push this in there, how straight this hole is, or if it's very convoluted and going to be more challenging. So let's see what happens. Oh my goodness. Wow, is it so abandoned that it's totally filled in? Here's that's the case. No matter where I push this rebar, it seems to goes in a little deeper that way. Maybe it's a couple of feet. Of course, I can't believe the animal would have a den, or whatever they call these. It's that shallow. Maybe it got started and gave up. Yep. That appears to be fallen in. So I don't know if this is going to work. What I wanted to do, if it went in the ways, is fill up 2-liter bottles with explosive gas and then set them off. And because they're tapered on the one end, be easier to shove them in there farther. And that would take away a lot of the work of digging, I think. This is very disappointing. It's very shallow. It doesn't go in very far. I think there's another one over here somewhere. So we can try again, except it's where the flat is. So I'm not going to be able to use the hill that way. That's another reason why I'm disappointed. So, a while ago, I came up with this idea of cutting the valve out of a bicycle tire tube that has holes in it. It's no good anymore, in other words, for holding air. And cutting it in a circle the same size as the rim of a 2-liter bottle opening. In other words, what the lid sets up against. So basically, you drill a hole in the lid, the size of the valve, and you push it into the lid, and you screw the lid onto the bottle, and then you can use a pump. And in my case, when I first started, I used a bicycle pump to pump this as full of air as you could get, high a pressure as you could get. And if I remember correctly, the highest pressure I could do was 60 psi. So I thought, well, if nothing else, maybe you could use that to fill up a bike tire, or at least partially. And it's very lightweight. A 2-liter bottle full of air is worth very, very light. So I did that, and I had one in the trunk of my car. If I didn't make it clear, I'm looking for another animal den. I remember there used to be one over here somewhere, but I'm not seeing it now. Maybe it too collapsed. Anyway, so I had this 2-liter bottle in the back of my truck, in the trunk of my car, and I was driving around in the summer, and it was jostling around, and it was hot, and it blew up while I was driving down the road, and it scared the bejeebus out of me. Almost had an accident. So I decided never to do that again. Anyway, I think at that point I kind of let the pressurized bottle thing go. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you could fill it full of some other gas? Be storage for some other gas, not so highly pressurized, not so likely to explode. And then you'd have that gas with you stored. And so, as you know, I've been experimenting with hydrogen. I've been experimenting with HHO. And that's where I came up with the explosive bottles that I could put into a hole and then set off, and it would blow it open and make it easier for me to dig this tunnel that I want to have. Problem is, I'm getting to the age that I can't really dig much. And so, I know I shouldn't make that excuse, should I? Well, it looks like I can't find another one of these animal holes. I knew I've had multiple over the years in this hill, but I guess that was so many years ago that weather has caused it to collapse. And oh, here's one. Oh, maybe not. I thought that was one right there. Yeah, I think it is one. It's got spider web over it or something. No, it's not one. Okay, well, this is a bust. Another idea would be, I'm just thinking of this. If I took this conduit and I set it into the hill and I beat it into the hill with a hammer, and I got it in so far, and then I pulled it back, say I got it in there 10 feet, and I pulled it back, pulled it back all the way maybe. Yeah. And then hooked up the hose from the HHO to that hole filled it with HHO, somehow capped it off, and then had a fuse and lit it and blew it up, what would that gain for me? Okay, well, I think that's the new idea. I think that's a new idea what I'm going to do. And maybe I'll just go ahead and do it at that one animal den hole. So, stay tuned. Okay, here's the conduit. And, see if I can hold it. And here's a bolt I found to fit in there, and a rubber gasket kind of a thing to go between. And there's the sledgehammer. And so I'm going to take that down and see how far I can beat this into the ground. Well, a bit of serendipity. I was checking out, well, I was finding a location for my tripod where I was far enough away where you could watch me beat the conduit into the ground. And so I was backing up to find a good spot, and I found another hole. It's going the wrong direction, but maybe if it goes deep enough, I'll just experiment with it to see if my explosion technique works. So I'm going to go get the conduit and put it in here, see how deep it goes. And I mean, I suppose it's possible this hole connects to that hole and it's just a den right through there. That's quite possible. Okay, got the conduit. All right. So now, this looks very promising. Okay. Okay, well, let's see. Okay, so it's this deep. I don't know, what is that, about 5 feet deep? So now I can do the 2-liter bottle idea, or I can do a balloons. I've ordered some long skinny balloons that you make balloon animals out of to fill with HHO. Because right now I could do that really easily. Just at my workbench where the setup is, fill them individually and then come down and put those balloons in this hole. In fact, as big as this hole is, excuse me, I don't need the long skinny balloons. I have the regular balloons that I could pack into there and then light. Question is, how am I going to light it from a distance? I don't know. Interesting. What in the world is that? Oh, it's a mailbox. That's funny. I wonder if there's any mail in it. It's an old mailbox. Oh my gosh, look how rusted out it is. Ha! That's funny. Old mailbox. Okay. I'm still going to try my idea of beating it with a sledgehammer, the conduit. So here, I'm going to have the conduit to beat the screw in. The conduit. I'm going to have the sledgehammer to beat the bolt in. Because there's dirt packed into it from when I shoved it in the ground before. On both ends. All right, I didn't think of that. All right, so I'm going to put this on the tripod and then we'll continue.